if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say at 80% of people that are in sales are not like gifted in sales. A lot of like I am a recovering introvert. And they say like extroverts are the best in sales. It's like, no, actually it's like I see people that crush business. I mean, you look at like Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, like they don't strike you as super introverted people, but they are amazing at business. So learning how to have effective communication and learning the actual process. Sales really, it's two things to me. It's personal development in disguise, like actually understanding that and going down that road, and it's self betterment in every way there could be. But it's actually learning that sales is it's helping people, it's serving people.
Whatever. Yeah, curse doesn't matter to me. Yeah, we're all good. Hey everyone, welcome back to the 1% Better podcast. I'm joined today by Joe Baldia. Is that how you say your last name? Just so I don't mess it up.
Badia, yeah, Badia,
Badia. Okay,
yep.
Badia. He's a friend of Andrew McCall's, who was the first of season two. That's how we connected. Met up at a para down in South Jersey where we met in person. But I'm going to give it over to Joe for a few minutes, let him give a quick intro, and then we'll get started.
Yes, Matt, thank you so much for having me on. This is awesome. It's so funny. Just my last name, it's very confusing. Half of my family doesn't even know how. I pretty much my entire family doesn't know how to pronounce it. So it's totally fine. It's Badia. I think it's Spanish Chilean. But then there's another side of my family that's like Irish and Italian, and they're like dead set that it's Badilla. And I'm like, whatever, dude. I really don't know. So whatever, however you say it, it's totally cool with me. Oh yeah, my background was that the question? I totally got derailed on that.
No, you're good. Yeah, let's start off with your experience in sales because I know that you worked with Andrew, I believe, previously
Mhm.
at a solar company. So we'd kind of love to
Yeah.
hear kind of how you got to where you are today in brief.
Yeah, no doubt. Ando recruited me. I worked at two different places with him, but really, I've been in sales now, door to door sales, for about 8.5 years. Never really thought that I would ever get into sales. My original dream and goal was to become a firefighter. I ended up FDNY, so I grew up in New York, Long Island, and I got into EMS because that's like the way that most people get into fire is the kind of back doors through EMS. So I did that for a number of years. I ended up hurting my knee. I couldn't pass the fire physical to get into the academy. So I was at a perfect, I guess, point where I was like, you know what? Like, let me try something completely out of the blue. And it just ended up being where I just by chance ran into Ando, and he recruited me. He was like, dude, you'd be so good for sales. Like, what are you doing not being in sales? Like, let's grab a bite. Let's chat. And I was like, all right, cool. And it's so funny because I'm learning recruiting now, and I'm just like, dude, it's just another form of sales. But yeah, I got into sales, and to be straightforward, I was terrible at sales for no joke. Like the first year and a half, I was atrocious at it. And I thought that you can just kind of power through it. But for me, I needed a very clear process to actually understand what I was doing, and good mentorship. But the thing that really carried me through it, and most people quit early on themselves in sales. So in solar sales, it was just direct sales. So you were knocking doors, you were talking to people, and it's like 3 to 6 months is really that learning curve where it's like, I don't even know if this is going to be like right for me. So it's really heavy lift. And in general, people just kind of throw you to the wolves, and they're like, hey, let's see who doesn't quit. And let's see who makes it through. And that was basically the mentality where it's just like, hey, here's the pitch, here's the tools, go get them, And I ended up to my benefit, everyone else quit at the office that I was at. So it was literally like one of those things that I just showed up one day and I'm looking around and I'm like, dude, I'm the only one here. Like, what the heck is going on? And I basically got called over to New Jersey, and I relocated from the Long Island office over to New Jersey, and it was a heck of a difference because there was actually veteran leadership and people that could coach me and train me, and that's what I didn't have at the previous place. And it was that at that point, it was like it actually clicked. I understood the process. I understood how to clearly and effectively present and close, and that made all the difference.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I know anecdotally from friends that are in sales that, those first 2 years probably are the roughest.
Mm.
Understanding like how to do the cold calling, or in this case, like cold door to door.
Cold knocking. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm curious, like fast forward now. So obviously now you've had, I think you said 8 years, right? Sales experience.
Yeah, I joined sales in 2015, so yeah, just over 8 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been so I worked up the ranks. I became like assistant manager, became manager, and I was I think it was like 5 straight quarters. I was like the top team at the company. I guess two previous companies ago, one of the largest solar companies in the Northeast, and then I guess made a name for myself by just the consistency of it, just like
Mhm.
over and over. And then I ended up leaving. It was so interesting. So me and Ando quit that company at the exact same day, completely oblivious to one another's like goals. Like we hadn't talked for months, and we just both randomly quit the same day, and it was just like for completely different reasons. And then it was like, dude, if we ever end up getting back into solar, like we have to connect. And then of course we did, and we met up at the next place, and then we were just like, dude, why don't we join forces and actually just blow this thing up and do what we couldn't do at previous companies. So we're just trying to innovate a little bit in
Mhm.
the industry and just build something our that's our own.
Yeah, I love that, and that actually brings me to my next point, which I was going to ask: how do you approach sales differently? You just said you especially want to innovate. I understand you
Yeah.
guys are doing a joint venture together, but you
Yep.
specifically, what is your plan for that?
Yeah, so I think if I can understand the question is like what specifically is Para doing differently, or is it like how do I feel about like entry level salespeople getting into sales now?
You could touch on your outlook on how you want to change like the sales, like your innovation, and then we can
Sure.
get into advice for younger people in a bit.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So, and I'll take myself as an example. The first like year and a half was abysmal, and that is typical. And you just echoed it. You were like, "Yeah, I pretty much hear that from a lot of places, wherever it is. The first year to 2 years can be very, very rough." So something that we're looking forward to innovating, not going into too much detail, but a very transparent like staircase where it's like you hit very clear metrics and you can advance and with full veteran support and feedback. So you're never in the dark. You always have support. You always have that. I don't want to say mentorship, but you always have that coach to bring you through those early stages. So you to ensure success right off the bat, because the number one thing in sales, it's a different universe. It's once it gets into commission sales,
Hmm.
it's like if you're not producing, you're not getting paid. If you have a family, if you have a wife, if you have kids, you have a ton of bills. You have a mortgage, you have a car payment, insurance, all of these things, and you kind of get into a point where you almost become desperate. It can be a very dark place when it first starts, and having those guardrails and help along the way to make it an easier process.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think is some of the major misconceptions about sales?
I think the number one misconception is that people are born salespeople. You
Mm.
either have it or you don't, and that is the furthest from the truth. I'd say, and I'll jump back. So the next one that immediately came to mind is that salespeople are swindlers. That they're
Mm.
trying to get their, like they're taking advantage of people, etc. Like you almost think of like a used car salesman. Like you go
Yeah.
on the lot and this guy's like, oh, all right, I'm gonna get one over on you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
sell you a lemon at the highest price and tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread. So I'd say those two things right off the rip.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of the first.
Hmm.
I'm definitely guilty of the first. I think something I learned just through studying like sales and marketing in
Hmm.
general is like the whole "sell me this pen" and the like just
Jordan Belfort,
yeah,
dude. The
right,
whole
right, thinking that way. But what blew my mind is like the right way to do sales, or at least like I guess the way people should look at it is like asking the right questions, getting at what their problem is, rather
100%.
than telling
Yes.
them how amazing your offer is.
Yes.
Like it doesn't mean shit if like you're not giving them what they want, right?
Yeah, it's like if you're not looking for a pen, then why are you selling someone a pen?
Yeah.
But the idea is that it is a teachable skill. So just like working out your muscles, going to the gym, sales is a teachable skill. I'd say, I mean, if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say at 80% of people that are in sales are not like gifted in sales. A
Hmm.
lot of like I am a recovering introvert, and they say that, like extroverts are the best in sales. It's like no, actually, it's like I see people that crush business. I mean, you look at like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, like they don't strike you as super introverted people, but they are amazing at business. So learning how to have effective communication and learning the actual process. Sales really, it's two things to me. It's personal development in disguise, like actually understanding that and going down that road, and it's self betterment in every way there could be. But it's actually learning that sales is it's helping people, it's serving people. If How do you better serve people? How can you better help people? And really, it's just solving a problem. Like in solar, it's really easy because people freaking hate their utility company,
Yeah.
and the rates go up every year. Like they've
Yeah.
been record high like utility increases, and people are just kind of sick of it. So it's so funny when people talk trash on solar. It's like, dude, have you looked at your utility like reviews
Yeah.
online? Like
Mhm.
they're like 1 star, like across the board with thousands of reviews. But anyways, yeah, it's really just it's caring for people and understanding that sales is actually a process. There's tons of psychology to it. It's highlighting a problem. We use our words. That's our tool, right? And
Mhm.
in basketball, athletes. They know exactly what they're doing. They have their craft. In sales, it's we're using our words. We come short, tall, fat, skinny, ugly, all of it, right? At some point, it's like, hey, are you helping someone solve a problem?
Mhm.
And that's really all it is. And it's just guiding them through the process where it doesn't even feel like they're being sold. Everyone loves to buy, they hate to be sold. So if you can connect with someone, if you can make it
Mhm.
really easy and simple, then they're more than likely going to move forward with it if they see the value in it and they like you.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the older I get and the more I start to understand about the intricacies of business, sales seems to be just like a life skill that is useful. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not in sales, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
will need to sell something. Whether you want to start a company, you need to sell investors. Like there's just
Yep.
all these other aspects, right? So what
Mm-hmm.
are some ways you think people can harness that skill if they're not necessarily in a sales position?
So one thing for me was just reading books, quite honestly. I have a whole slew of books and a whole bunch of favorite authors. One of the first books I ever read was The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. That was like day one, like, hey, read this. And I had to reread it multiple times to get to really get it. I'm that type of person that like I read something and I'm just like, and dude, I hate reading. I absolutely hate reading. I don't think I enjoyed reading one book until I got into sales because I'm like, wow, this is my livelihood. Like I
Hmm.
need to understand the essence of sales. So thank God for audiobooks because I'll get a physical copy and I swear I'll turn the pages and I'm like, what the heck did I just read? Like I just read words, but I didn't get them. But when reading audiobooks, for whatever reason, for me, it sticks. Like when someone's telling me a story, when I can hear it, when I can listen to it, I mean, I love doing that while driving because, as we were just talking about before we hit the go button, is it helps kind of just teleport that drive if you drive long distance. But yeah, anyone could just read or listen to it. There's tons of podcasts as well on sales. So it's going to it really the basics of it is effective communication, really just helping. But it's learning. There's also learning negotiation, and learning. It's like simple stuff like, hey, where are we going for dinner tonight? Like there's what I realize is before I was in sales for a very long time. At EMS, you're serving people, you're helping people. How can you have a more enjoyable experience for the person that's in pain that needs to go to the hospital? And then I did customer service before that, and I didn't realize that was sales as well. So we're everything is sales. We're always in sales because we always want something, and we always need to feel like we can get it. And if you can create win-win-win situations, that's the best. Where it's like, hey, um, and anyway, so I'll keep getting down this road.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Mhm.
And then we'll wrap up the sales here, but I'm curious then. So, what would you say to maybe people starting out in their sales journey? Maybe they're
Mhm.
lacking the guidance that Para is going to provide, but what would you say to someone who maybe wants to get into sales or is early on in their career? How can they
Mhm.
really maximize their skill set and excel in that field?
So really, it's just getting around, having leadership, having that coachable. That would be the best thing to start. Like, yes, you can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, you can actually dive into the content, but being someplace where you're going to get veteran feedback, you're actually going to be coached. That is the best thing that could ever happen. Link up with the top performers, whoever is doing really well in your field. Just, hey dude, can I grab a coffee with you? Can I grab lunch with you? Hey, can I just talk to you for 2 minutes? Hey, do you mind if I shadow? Hey, do you mind if I and people respond really, really well to that. So they say when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I believe that is 100% true, and just really going the extra mile. Like in sales, there's meetings. Show up early to the meetings.
Hmm.
Definitely get to know people that are doing really well, and people, believe it or not, they like to help you. And a lot of times when they will see themselves in the new person. When the new guy comes there, the new
Yeah.
girl comes there, it's like, oh man, I remember when I got into sales, and everyone has a story. Oh dude, it was terrible. I did cold calling at this, telemarketing agency, and I had no freaking clue what I was doing. And people, you figure it out. You're in sales long enough, you figure it out. But people will always likely want to help you if you ask in a nice manner. Hey,
Yeah.
do you mind giving me a pointer on here? Hey, can I pitch you real quick? Hey, am I explaining this okay? And they'll be brutally honest, and that's what you want. You don't want sugarcoating. You want real veteran feedback.
Yeah. I think that's applicable in careers in general. People are afraid of feedback, but in
Hmm.
reality, it's going to come up one way or another. You'd rather it be in an environment where you can take it and actually learn from it, rather than it be
Yes.
your performance review a year later because you didn't want to take the feedback at the time.
Hmm.
Um, that made me think of. I'm actually curious. So I don't know. Again, I'm pretty young. I'm 24 for context, but would you say that like sales varies industry by industry? Like, and what I mean by that? No. Okay.
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. I think that the essentials are the same.
Okay.
But I'll before I say that definitively, let me finish. Let me make sure that that you finish asking the question.
Yeah. No. I was gonna ask. Do you think there's a certain amount of sales that's not transferable in terms of like how industry, like if you're working in like selling financial products versus selling solar panels, are the top
Mhm.
people in those industries, do they have kind of like an edge because they understand that industry if they've been in it for 20 years, or would you say that a top seller at Para could be a top seller elsewhere?
I like to, so there's going to be differences. I mean, and I can't 100% speak to that because I've never sold insurance.
Right.
I've never been a loan officer or anything like that. But I've been to many sales seminars in completely other industries. The foundations are the foundations. I am a big believer that if you learn one type of sales, it's going to be it can will all of that transfer over? I'm sure not, but a vast majority of that is going to transfer over.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. And you mentioned earlier that you see an underlying part of sales is personal development. Can you touch on how you got started with personal development and where that journey began?
Yeah, it began with sales.
Okay.
It began with sales, and I think so. Personal, so sales is personal development in disguise. I don't have no idea who said that. So maybe in like the show notes or something,
Yeah.
we can figure out who said that. But Sean Acor wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. So the happiness advantage, I believe he was a Harvard or a Yale researcher, like a positive psychologist, and he found that the happier people are, the better that they score, like across the board. So their productivity is going to go up, their sales is going to go up, they're going to live longer. Like all of these stats were just out of control, and you compiled like 15,000 studies, and was just like, holy crap. People think that when they become successful, then they'll be happy. But he found that the happier people are, the more successful they are. It's actually completely reverse.
Mhm.
That was one of the first books that I was like, holy crap, how can I be more happy then? Because it sounds really easy. Like, all
Yeah.
right, cool. I'm just going to put a smile on my face and everything's going to be great. And then I found Hal Elrod. He wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. He also wrote a book called The Miracle Equation. Both of those books were phenomenal. The first book I read was The Miracle Morning, and he talks about how you start your day is how
Yep.
it'll amplify your entire life. How you live your mornings, how you live your days, weeks, years, etc. And he was like, dude, how can I figure out the best way to start my day? And he compiled all these things, like Oprah says this, swears by this one thing, and Denzel Washington swears by this other thing, and Bill Gates swears by this other thing. And he basically just compiled like the perfect morning. And it was six different things. I wonder if I can remember them off the top of my head. So the
Right.
acronym was SAVERS. So it was SAVERS. The first one was silence. So it's like meditation or prayer. The second one was affirmation, so a positive affirmation. Mike Tyson literally paid someone to hype him up and be his professional hype man. But you can just do that with personal affirmations. Muhammad Ali has the famous one: I am the greatest. I am the best." V is visualization, and we chatted about that a couple weeks ago down in South Jersey. E is exercise. R is my gosh, SAVER, reading. Reading is good. And then the last one, S, was for scribing, which is basically just writing or journaling. So he created like a perfect formula, and he's sold like, I think, over 1 million copies of his book, or probably more than, and like worldwide. But I got into personal development because I realized that everything starts within. So I need to pour into myself so I can pour into my customers, so I can pour into my sales ability, so I can affect, and when I got into management, help the team out more, and be there more for the team. And that was my journey, my entry into personal development, was just sales. And anytime I talked to a top sales guy, they were like, "Oh, dude, and by the way, read this book, or by the way, check out this podcast, or by the way, like XYZ." There was always something, and it really always did come back to personal development. There was very few people that were just crushing it in sales, that were just like, it just seemed like they were winging it. And maybe those were the people that were blessed, and
Yeah.
they were just like, hey, they were, their gift was sales. Their gift was, they had the gift of the gab, and they were super convincing, and like, that's just what they were. I was never that person, and I was super shy growing up. I was like this might be too much information, but I was an oops baby. So I was like, I have 3 older siblings, and they by the time like I got into elementary school, they were all like graduated college. So it was like, I learned like how to be super comfortable with just being by myself.
Hmm.
So that's my gift, is I could literally, like, I could spend, for like, I'm just cool, like not talking to people. That's not great for sales though. It's
Yeah.
like, it's the complete opposite. So sales is like, dude, talk to as many people as humanly possible. And then by the end of the day, honestly, I'm pretty drained. I'm like, dude, I'm ready to turn it off and get, 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and go for it tomorrow. But yeah, so anyways,
Yeah.
we
No,
went off on a tangent there,
no,
or
no,
I
you're
did.
good.
I went off on a tangent.
Tangents are always welcomed on the pod. I definitely second the routine thing. That's something I've found has been like, even I've even expanded it a little bit to at night, like checking in and checking out, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of how I refer to it. I think it's so accurate to what you were saying. It's just, it sets the tone for the day, takes a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of, the unpredictability out of your day, knowing exactly how you're going to start and how you're going to end,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is really powerful. The other thing I want to touch on is, and it was just like one line in there, but I caught it, and it's something that I've noticed in myself and people around me. Is you were talking about how it starts from within. I
Yep.
think that's so important because, or more specifically, you were saying it starts with within, and success isn't what makes you happy, right? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
What I've noticed is, like, from working on myself and the people around me, once you get to like a good place mentally in within yourself, you want to like give in excess around, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a total, to me, like an energy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people think like, oh, I'm being selfish, but no, it's like the complete opposite. Because the second that you're good, you can
Mm-hmm.
start to focus your energy on other people, which I think is good for people to kind of understand that perspective. Because I just think it starts to permeate the more like you like
Mm-hmm.
your situation, the more you can help other people around you. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you agree with that, or what your
A
thoughts are.
100%. Yeah, I think the real currency in life is relationships.
Hmm.
So first, like, we all start, we're dependent, right? We're babies. We can't do anything. We're utterly dependent on everyone around us, and then we gain independence, hopefully. And at that point, we're like, okay, we have this rush. We're like, dude, this is great. And then I think the layer above that is intradependence, when we realize we're actually dependent on everything. We're dependent on absolutely everything, and everyone, in one way, shape, or form. And when you see success, you're I feel like it almost becomes like an energy, like a I don't want to call it like a vibration, but
Yeah.
when I guess it's like two different things, but it could just be magnetic, where it's like when you're successful, when you have your ducks in a row, you're gonna start attracting people inevitably. They're gonna just feel like, oh, dude, Matt, like you got some swagger, like you're in shape, like you're taking care of yourself. Oh, I see you with this new ride, or hey, dude, you're like all of these things where it's like, oh yeah, when you do inner work, it exudes. So I believe that. So John Maxwell talks about the law of magnetism, where we attract, and I believe that that is the case.
Yeah. And I don't know who said this to me. It was either a past guest or someone on social media. So if you're listening, shout out to this person, whoever you are.
Let's go.
But someone recently said to me something along the lines of like, "There's nothing you you won't get a higher IOR. Wait, sorry, ROI.
Return on investment.
Yeah,
Yep, got you.
return on investment
Yo,
from
it's late,
relationships.
dog.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a long day. Um, but yeah, they said something along the lines of like, there's nothing that will give you a higher return on your investment than your relationships.
Yep.
And I remember being a kid and not necessarily not thinking that was the case, but I was like, oh, like I
Because
don't
you have
really
no
know.
patience. When you're
Yeah,
little, you have no patience. You want everything now. It's
yeah,
the short game, it's shortcuts, it's instant gratification. And then when you get older, dude, and you're 24, bro, you're still a
yeah,
baby, which is amazing. It's amazing that you're doing this podcast. So kudos to you,
yeah.
brother.
Thank you.
I feel like when you get older, you understand the importance of relationship and family and all of these things, where it's like how you treat people is it's almost like echoed into
Mm,
like eternity. It's definitely echoed into the future for sure. So how you treat people is super important. There's a saying, how you treat people on the way up is how you get treated on the way down. Because we always have those ups and downs, and it's important to take the long game and to actually care for people. It's definitely true in sales, because in sales, like the biggest compliment that you can get in sales is when your customer refers you to their
mhm,
network. And
mhm.
that's when you know you did a great job. You're like, wow, I took care of them so well that they're like, here's my uncle, here's my brother, oh, here's my friend, here's my coworker. They want what you helped me with. And it's like, oh my gosh, and it's so important. But salespeople can, and they do have. There is a bad reputation in sales, that they lie to people. That they'll cut corners. They'll leave things out. They'll lie by omission rather than outright. And then what happens is, yeah, you got commission, but now it's like you're never gonna get a referral. And if you did, it was by sheer freaking accident.
Yeah.
Always taking the high road, always doing what's right, is always right. Doing what's right is always the right thing, and just it's always that long term thinking.
Mhm.
So I'm 37. Sometimes I feel like I'm old, but I'm constantly reminded. It's like, dude, we're gonna live in all likelihood to we're 80 plus years old.
Yeah.
So it's like we could screw up royally for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, and it's like we'll still wake up one day and we'll still be young. We'll still have a wonderful amount of life ahead of us. But understanding that long game and that patience. Is something that I feel like I'm just starting to learn that, with the idea of delayed gratification. And I think it's a lot of that is because I'm learning a lot about business, but also learning a lot about investing,
Mhm.
and that has changed a little bit of the way that I look at money, and look at relationships.
Yeah. That reminded me of two things. One was the story we heard at the meetup we were at. I forget the guy's name, but the one we video conferenced in from Many Hopes. Is that it? Is that the business? right? For the
Oh yeah,
nonprofit.
yeah. Many hopes. Colin
Yeah,
Hunter.
Colin was telling the story about whatever store that it was like whatever it was like a guy focused store, and that one
Yeah.
guy came in and spent like $800, but they went and did his like first order and second order effects, and it was in like the six figures of
Hmm.
money that he brought in from just
Yep.
referring people, even though
I
he
think it
had
was the seven figures. Yeah, I
seven
think the
figures.
guy's name was Declan. Yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah,
it was the seven figures,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
it was a crazy story,
yeah.
but it just goes to show exactly what you were saying. And I remember, I think I was back in college when I saw there's someone made a video about like now with social media and technology, how many like orders of magnitude of effect a single person is able to have, like just like in a short amount of time.
Hmm.
You really don't realize the effect you have on other people at all.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so that also reminded me of something my dad always says, which is like you never get anything done by being angry. Like you might as well just be nice. You might as well treat people nice. I mean, you might
Hmm.
maybe by being angry you get something done in the immediacy, but like
Yeah.
you're definitely not buying yourself any good karma in that aspect at all.
Yeah, like it takes forever to build your how do you say this? To build your reputation. Your
Hmm.
reputation takes like a lifetime to build, and you can ruin it in an instant.
Yeah.
And I can definitely get hot. I have a very long fuse, but I know when it gets close. I have to completely disconnect
Yeah.
because like I can't have a conversation with people. It actually drives my girlfriend nuts. But like when I'm heated, I'm just like I can't. I'm sorry. Like there's nothing that I'm gonna do in like the next half an hour that's going to be beneficial to anyone that's around me. So I'm just gonna go for a walk,
Yeah.
and or hey, let's revisit that convo in like an hour or two.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
but I
yeah,
mean,
I agree with that.
yeah, and I mean that self awareness is, I think, like the a key aspect that I think people
Yeah.
maybe like discount or discredit in personal
Hmm.
development is like
Yeah, you
the
learn a lot.
yeah.
And dude, from your relationships too.
Hmm.
Your relationships are mirrors.
Yeah,
They are absolute mirrors. They will show you exactly who you are and what you do. So that is very valuable. Not I'm not talking about just dating people, but
hmm,
having really strong relationships with people, and if they're and giving and really close like guy friendships, they'll just call you out on your shit. They're
yeah,
like, "Yo, bro, like you're acting XYZ," and it's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. Like so, having those really good, like a circle, like your inner circle, your sphere of influence is also super important. That's for sure in sales and success in life in general. Having really good tight knit circles.
yeah. What would you say to someone who maybe is just starting to become aware of like the idea of personal development or is in their early stages? What would be
Yep.
some, tips or steps you would say, these should be some of the things that you can do to push yourself along the journey a little bit further?
Can you say that in a different way?
Yeah. Like if I came to you and I wasn't, as far along on my personal development journey, what would be, some words of advice you have as someone who's, 13 years further than I am?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's no rush. Everyone like I didn't even know what personal development was until I got into sales,
Hmm.
and it was just like, dude, you need this or you're gonna die in sales. And it's like, okay, cool, I need to do it. I think everyone's on their journey, and I think a lot of people are going to hear us talk about personal development and be like, oh, it's not really important. But I think it's self betterment.
Hmm.
And it's not for everyone. I think
Yeah.
what I'm realizing is to be a more effective leader, I need to lead myself better, and I need to be an example. So I think that I got into personal development through sales, and then when I got into management and leadership, I realized, holy, like this is super, super important. I think personal development comes naturally for some people, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like John Maxwell talked, 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. It's like, have good character, like be trustworthy, right? Say the truth. It's like, okay, this is very normal for most people, but some people, it's like, okay, I'm going to cut corners, whatever. That's going to come back to you in the long run. So that's why we talk about the long game. Where
Yeah.
you're at in personal development, it's like, hey, as long as you're in that neighborhood, this is good. There's no timeline. It's like, if you're focusing on making yourself better,
Mm-hmm.
you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. Let's dive off into vision boards. When we were at the meetup, I heard you give a bit of a presentation about it. So
Yeah.
I would love if you could define it for the audience first, because I know some people probably aren't fully aware of what they are, and then we can kind of dig deeper. But if you could just give like a little intro into what they are and how you use them.
Yeah. That's awesome. So this is one of my favorite things, and I didn't realize how important it was. But Hal Elrod, he talked about the savers, SAVERS. The V stands for visualization. And I read the book multiple times, and I was like, I really don't understand how to like use this. And then finally one day, I was probably like 2-3 years into my sales career, and I was like, you know what? Let me just sit in front of like Canva, and just try to throw together something that represented like what I wanted. And the interesting thing about visualization is it forces you to think about what you actually want. Like, if you were, and it doesn't have to be ideal, but something, right? Can you put your goals into like a picture form? Like, you have, in order to do that, you need to actually think and spend time. And I was 30, I don't know, 32 at the time, something like that. And of course, I threw a car on there, and I threw a house on there. I was renting. I was driving like an old Toyota Prius that had like, I don't know, 180,000 miles on it. And I was like, dude, I want a Tesla Model 3, and I was renting in a house, and I was like, I want to buy a house, and I want this, that, and the other thing. So I put like 5 things down on a vision board. And the cool thing is, one of them was just this. It was almost like a Stanley Cup, but it was like this giant golden like trophy. And I was like, you know what? I was just in that mind space that I was like, I want to win something huge. I want to achieve something great that no one has achieved before, that, or like very few people have achieved. Like, I want, and I put that right on my vision board. I was like, dude, I don't know what this is. I don't know, but I just know I want to strive to be the best. And I've learned something about myself, that I am a fierce competitor. And that goes back to just getting my butt kicked in sports and video games and stuff from my older siblings. But it's definitely helped me in sales and in business. But what was interesting with my vision board is that, like 6 months later, after I created this, the company that I was at, they came up with this. It was called the Cup, and it was the biggest sales competition that they had in their 25-year history. And I just remember when I was at this quarterly sales event with like hundreds of it was like 500 people there, and they brought out this cup in front of everyone, and I teared up. I was like, what the fuck am I just looking at right now? I'm not even kidding you. Like, I'm literally tearing
Yeah.
up right now just thinking about it, because I looked at my vision board, and then I looked at the cup, and it was like almost identical. And I was like, dude, this is some messed up like universal magic that I just tapped into somehow. And then, long story short, my team ended up winning that award, and it was just like full all out effort. I've never been so motivated in my life. I was like on all my guys, like 24/7, and it was like a month and a half long competition, and that's all I thought about. And we just barely won it. And we ended up going on like a cruise, and had like a team photo shoot and all this stuff. And I had a dinner with all the executives and directors, and I was just like, dude. And then I looked at my vision board. I remember I had like a random coffee with Ando, and I was like, dude, like, do you know what a vision board is? Like, do you know how, like, have you used one? And I showed him, and I was like, dude, I put 5 things on this vision board, and then here we are like a year and a half later, and I achieved every single one of them. So I don't, dude, it's like a microwave. Like, if you ask me how a microwave works, I have no freaking clue how a microwave works. But I just know that if I put my food in it, I hit 3 buttons, it's warm. I just don't know how a vision board works. I really don't. I just know that it does work, and it's worked over and over and over for me. And there's way too many celebrities, athletes, musicians, artists, people all across the world that swear on their life by vision boards. I don't know why, Matt, for the life of me. I just know that when you put your goals down in a picture form and you look at them, it's like your universe aligns and it like conspires for you to get this thing.
Yeah, yeah. Two big things there. The first is totally agree. I've been experimenting with vision boards a little bit more recently, but I've always been a big proponent of just writing down what you want to accomplish.
Hell
And
yeah.
in my last recording I did yesterday, I was saying how I was cleaning out my closet the other day and I came across like all these notebooks and I looked at it and it was funny. I had forgotten about them, but they had a bunch of goals written in them, and most of them came true. And I was like, I didn't even know that I had planned for this, right? Like you don't even think about it. Um, but it's like you said, I don't really know how it works. I mean, my partial theory is I think we don't fully understand subconscious yet, and there's a lot of studying, and I've read a lot of literature on it, and there is a lot of power to it. And I think people, will be like, oh, like they kind of dismiss it because it's hard to understand, but I don't think that's necessarily the right approach.
Hmm.
Because it's you know just because we don't understand doesn't mean we don't know that doesn't work.
Yep.
To your point of the microwave analogy, like I don't know how it works, but it does. Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same thing echoed. I mean, everyone who uses them swears by it, so there's definitely something to it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I want to almost call it magic, but I don't. I literally don't know. I just like, I think that's what it is to some degree. Is you're programming your subconscious mind, and you're aligning your action. It's like
Hmm.
if you're constantly looking at what you want, then your actions are, I feel like, are naturally going to kind of gravitate in that direction. Where it's like, man, if there's someone with a 6 pack and my face on it, and like I look at this person every day, maybe when I look at that bag of chips, or maybe when I look at that 6 pack of beer at the store that I'm about to buy, or maybe when I'm like about to skip that gym session, I'm like, you know what? I am going to go to the gym. I am going to eat something healthy, whatever it is. I feel like you start to program your mind, and your actions kind of just naturally gravitate towards what you're after. Like, I want this thing, and it's like, I'm not saying that the universe nudges you in that direction. Maybe
Yeah.
it does. I really don't know. But I feel like it aligns your actions for like, this is most important for me.
Yeah. I really like that. I've also experienced that as well, especially what you were saying about like the everyday choices just
Mm-hmm.
become, you look at it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Another way that I like visualize it in my head is I feel like when you write down your goals or you create a vision board, you go from like every day looking at the ground to kind of looking a little bit more up and forward. Like
Yeah.
we can get, especially with like social media and our phones, we can get so like bogged down in the micro, and every single day your
Yeah.
attention is being pulled in 1,000 different directions. And just by listen, like I want these 5, 6 things. Like even
Mm-hmm.
if it's not every day that you're like fully consciously saying I want those things, you're at least made yourself aware that there is something bigger than what's going on in this specific moment right now.
100%.
Yeah.
And two quick notes on that.
Yeah.
So as you were saying it, I was like, yes, and yes, and yes. Tim Grover, he wrote a book, a killer book called Relentless, but he wrote another book called Winning. And one of the biggest takeaways that I took from that book is you actually we're really bad at managing time, but what we're really good at is managing focus. So managing your focus is how you win. So I'm like, now that I'm like thinking that, I'm like, okay, maybe that is what vision board is actually doing, is you're managing your focus. You're keeping what you want front and center, so everything naturally maps out to that. And then there was another book that I read very early in my sales career, that I actually had, and I didn't read it. I should have read it sooner. So Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work.
Yeah.
And he said one of the most critical things that you could do is not only find out what you want, but eliminate as many distractions as you can possibly do. So ideally eliminate all distractions if that's humanly possible. So find the needle mover, find what you want, and eliminate virtually as many distractions as you can. So I think that in what so like Elon Musk. So like he is super good at saying no. Like if it's not exactly what he wants, it's no. And Warren Buffett, same thing. He's just really, really, really good at saying no. Just finding out what it is exactly that he wants. They're very good at eliminating all the other distractions.
Yeah. And that reminds me, I think this was in one of your responses, but Cal Newport's other book that I read Deep Work, but I also read So Good They Can't
So
Ignore
good they
You.
can't ignore you. That
Yeah.
book is fire.
Yeah. Anyone who's in school still or freshly out of school, starting your career, you have to read that book.
Mhm.
It's my number one recommendation to anyone who's younger than me or asks for advice.
Awesome.
It's yeah, it like totally flips the script on like follow your passion, like
Hmm.
that advice.
Yep.
It was an eye opener
Craftsman.
for sure. Yeah.
Craftsman mentality, dude.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Um, cool. I would love to in the last few minutes here touch on community and winning together. For me, this is something that I've embraced a lot more recently. I read the book. The first personal development book I ever read was Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And that was one of the things that I never even thought about. When you're a kid, like, grew up playing sports, video games, like, you're competitive, you think about, like, winning and losing, right? Like, for me to win, someone has to lose. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of how you're
Zero sum.
programmed. Yeah.
Hmm.
And obviously, in that book, he talks about how in the real world, in the working world, professional world, and in life, the optimal equation is that people winning together is actually like the only way you get to a sum, a
Hmm.
net positive.
Hmm.
So we kind of just love to hear your thoughts on that generally and why that's so important to you.
Yeah, it's so funny that as soon as you asked that question, I thought of like how sports is not that at all, but it also is. Like, so if it's like hand to hand combat, right? If it's like one of my favorite sports that I watch now is UFC, where it's like,
Okay.
okay, John Jones versus whoever. It's like, yeah, there's going to be one person that wins, but at the same time, there's an entire team behind that one person. There's an entire fan base behind that one person. So it's like we're actually even in that one example where I tried to like almost prove that it was wrong. I was like, no,
Yeah.
dude, there's gonna be no, actually there isn't. And obviously in team sports, I mean in football, there's like like 50 something players on one team. It's like they're all going for it, and that competition is actually freaking awesome. Like I love sports in that regard, because of the level of competition. But winning as a team, winning as a community, that's why I love solar, because it's like one of those things where it's like everyone that's involved wins, and there's an entire industry around that. There's an entire network behind it. It's not just I'm not just the sales guy helping that one person switch over to solar, there's an entire like team of people permitting and doing the applications and doing the engineering and doing the installation and doing all of this stuff behind the scenes. But then the homeowner goes solar, and it's like it helps the infrastructure, it helps the environment, it helps them save money, it helps whatever, and it's like we're paying for this through our tax dollars. So it's like we're actually all communitively paying for something that is a net positive for everyone, and even the utility is involved in that. So it's like one of those things where it's like it's a perfect win-win-win situation, and yeah. So I think that's where we were going with this, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. I just wanted to generally get your thoughts. And
sure,
how do you apply that to your personal life? So obviously we kind of touched on professional, but how do you
yeah.
see that come out in your personal life and your relationships?
So when I think the one of the reasons that I got into solar or had a inkling towards it is back in college. I got people together to do like park cleanups, and it was something like it was through like Keep Islip Clean. It was out in shout out to them in Long Island, a really small
Yeah.
grassroots. Like they would just go out, and like this one area would be freaking full of trash, and we would just go, and it would be a couple people, and then I just started doing it on my own. I started just like, hey dudes, let's get together, let's do a barbecue at the park and play frisbee or football, whatever. And then people would show up, and I have a bunch of trash bags and all this stuff, and be like, we're gonna do that, but first we're gonna do this. And it would just everyone felt good. It's like when you actually help the community, when you do something that's a positive, it's like random acts of kindness for people. It's like you spread that that positivity, that kindness, and like something simple, like you hold the door, like you say, hey, like you just randomly be super like positive and nice to a complete stranger. You feel good when you give back. You
Mhm.
feel good. If you do that as a community, the community feels good. If you do that as a state or a nation, it's a trickle effect. There's a reason that we linked up as a community with Many Hopes. It's because it feels so good, and that positive impact is contagious. It's like, man, if anyone's doing some really amazing things, I want to be involved with that. I want to find out how I can be involved with that and how I can get more people involved with that. This is an international organization that's just absolutely laser focused on helping kids that are suffering, women that are suffering globally, and bringing change through justice, but creating change agents actually in those areas. Whether they're, I mean, in Lake Volta, actually is saving children from slavery in the fishing trade, which is crazy. But then they have this, they end up wanting to go back into that same community and help people, and it's just this contagiously like positive change that it just keeps on going. So now, I think now that I'm getting older, but I'm also seeing success. So also getting back to what you were saying, it's like, man, when you have achieved a certain level of success, you want that to spread. You actually want to give back. You want to help people, and being involved in as many things as you can. And it's like those easy lifts, those easy ads. It's like
Mhm.
if you could have let's say a sales rep that's commission, that's making really good commission, but maybe a small sliver of that commission go to an amazing project overseas, and they could see, and it doesn't even have to be overseas, it could be right here in the community in the form of, let's say, like a park cleanup for a simple example. It feels amazing to be a part of that, and it's a very, very light lift.
That fantastic message. Also, take this time to give Many Hopes a shout out. They'll be linked in the description or show notes down below.
Let's
Um,
go, Matt.
yeah, no, I mean they're doing incredible work. I think it's we all get caught up in our lives, right, and what we're focusing on, and we forget
Hmm.
all that's happening abroad and on our own shores.
Dude,
But
yes.
yeah, so huge shout out to Many Hopes and the work that they're doing. Like I said, it'll be down below for anyone who's interested in supporting. Um, Listen, Joe, this was fantastic. Do you have any parting thoughts you want to leave the audience with?
No, it makes me think of that perspective where it's like, man, we're actually blessed. We actually like, yeah, we have problems. Some of us have bigger problems than others. Though there are storms, there are challenges, but we get through them. Typically, we think that they're bigger problems than they actually are. You know, most of the things we worry about, they end up being nothing or something that we can get over. And especially with our community, you know, with our friends, with our family, with our coworkers. So yeah, be vulnerable. Ask for help if you need help. That was one of the superpowers that I feel like I had that we didn't really get into. That got me through many hurdles in sales. It's like, hey, there's no reason like pride comes before the fall. So take the chip off your shoulder if you need a hand with something or you need some advice. Absolutely go and get that advice and don't be ashamed as well, because we all go through things. So lean on your friends, lean on your family, lean on anyone that is there. But having that perspective, that's like, man, like we do have problems, but there are people that are facing way greater problems elsewhere. And if we could I guess learn some gratitude from that and learn that sense of perspective, I believe it'll give you a little bit more happiness in your life.
Yeah. I can't end that on a better note. So thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed having you, and we'll definitely have to have some more conversations soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, Matt. This has been awesome.
Hey guys, welcome to the 1% Better Pod. Here we talk about how to become better in all aspects of life, professional, personal, and everything in between. I interview top performers in various industries, and we distill their processes for success into actionable advice for you all to use. Be sure to leave a review and follow the pod to never miss an episode. Also, check out our episodes on YouTube for a better viewing experience. With that, let's get into it.